The protagonist of the show is a peculiar girl named Wednesday Addams. Despite being only 13, the little girl barely shows any emotions and has a weird obsession to death. She is also infamous for wearing black and white gothic clothes, which everyone finds strange. In the first scene, Wednesday arrives at her high school with a creepy look on her face. Inside her locker, she finds her brother, Pugsley, bound with an apple in his mouth. As she shoves him out, suddenly, Wednesday has a vision wherein she sees who tortured her brother. Here, we get to know that she is not a normal child. Wednesday has the ability to see someone's past as well as future by just touching them. Once she finds out that a group of bullies from the swim team are behind this, she walks into the swimming room with 2 bags full of piranhas. Then, she casually unleashes the bloodthirsty piranhas in the pool. As the bullies run for their lives in horror, Wednesday makes it clear that nobody picks on her brother except her. Cut to the next scene, we are introduced to Wednesday's parents, Morticia and Gomez. The two are fed up with their daughter's shenanigans and have decided to send her to the prestigious Nevermore Academy. It turns out that all students in this academy have supernatural abilities, and they are taught lessons on how to control it. Morticia and Gomez are also alumni of the same academy, which indicates that they too have superpowers. Meanwhile, a hiker embarks on a solo journey through the woods near the Nevermore Academy. Unfortunately, just after a few minutes, an unknown creature attacks him and finishes him off. The local sheriff finds the mutilated body later and begins surveying the area. Surprisingly, we learn that this grisly murder isn't the first of its kind. There have been numerous similar incidents as of late. Next, Wednesday arrives at the academy and meets Principal Larissa Weems, who seamlessly runs Nevermore. She introduces her to her roommate, Enid, a werewolf who's the polar opposite of Wednesday in every way imaginable. Enid is a down-to-earth girl with vibrantly colored decorations on her side of the room, while Wednesday loves all things black and goth. Later, Enid gives Wednesday a grand tour of the academy, while pointing out the main school group: Fangs, Furs, Stoners, and Scales. Fangs are vampires, Furs are werewolves, Stoners are gorgons with snakes on their heads, and Scales are sirens who have the ability to manipulate people. Enid also shows her the most popular girl in school, Bianca Barclay, a gorgeous siren, and her ex-boyfriend, Xavier Thorpe, a death artist who can transform his drawings into reality. Meanwhile, as the Addams family departs in their car, Gomez releases Thing, a chopped-off living hand. Thing is tasked with keeping watch over their daughter. The following day, Wednesday joins fencing class, where she is pitted against the impressive Bianca. After a bit of back and forth, the girls end up with equal points, so they decide to remove their masks and fight until someone draws blood first. Soon enough, a brutal battle erupts, with both of them matching each other stride for stride. However, at the end, Bianca ultimately emerges victorious when she slashes a small cut on Wednesday's cheek. Later, as Wednesday exits the infirmary after getting patched up, she is almost crushed to death by a falling stone gargoyle. Luckily, the death artist, Xavier, arrives just in time and pushes her out of the way. Shortly after, Wednesday returns to her room, but she suspects that someone is watching her. Hence, she searches the room and eventually finds the hand, Thing. Realizing that it's her parents' doing, Wednesday threatens the hand to be loyal to her, or else she will lock him up in a drawer. Terrified, Thing vows to be faithful. Due to Wednesday's piranha prank, she has to take mandatory therapy sessions, so Principal Larissa drives her to her therapy session in Jericho, a small town outside of Nevermore. She meets her therapist, but doesn't open up about anything. Instead, Wednesday has another idea in mind. She excuses herself to the restroom and escapes through the window. Once outside, she accidentally stumbles into a man. Suddenly, she sees a vision, where she witnesses the man's death. Terrified, Wednesday goes to a nearby coffee shop. There, she encounters the sheriff's son, Tyler, who's also a barista. Tyler's experiencing some mechanical difficulties with his espresso machine. The directions are inexplicably in Italian, but thankfully, Wednesday can read Italian. She fixes the device effortlessly and in return asks for a lift to the nearest bus stop. But before Tyler can reply, suddenly, a trio of bullies wearing pilgrim costumes arrive at the store and taunt her. Wednesday tries ignoring them, but when she can't take it any longer, she fights back and easily smacks them down. After a while, Principal Larissa arrives at the store with the sheriff and notices the carnage. Enraged, she berates Wednesday before driving her away from the town. On their way to the academy, they pass a terrible car wreck. The victim is the same man who Wednesday saw in her vision earlier. Later that night, she plays a haunting song on her cello in the dorm balcony. It's a full moon night, and several werewolves can be heard howling in the background. However, Enid, who is a werewolf herself, reveals that she's not joining them because she cannot transform herself. Meanwhile, Thing pops by Tyler's room and asks him to call Wednesday. Although terrified, he obliges, and the two start video chatting. Wednesday asks Tyler to meet her at the harvest fair the following day, claiming that it will be fun. However, in reality, she just wants to escape the academy. While at the fair, we see Larissa watching over Wednesday like a hawk. Despite this, the goth teenager somehow manages to catch up with Tyler. The two almost escape the place, but just then, Wednesday stumbles into one of her classmates, Rowan. He immediately runs into the woods, and since Wednesday touched him, she has a vision. Rowan has been brutally mauled to death by someone. Terrified, she has a change of heart and goes after him to impart the news. But before she can say anything, Rowan uses his telekinesis ability and secures her high up on a tree. He then reveals that his mother, a powerful seer, envisioned Wednesday destroying the Nevermore Academy 25 years ago. Hence, Rowan believes that he has to kill her before anything bad happens. He then starts choking her telekinetically. But suddenly, a massive monster leaps in, tears Rowan apart, and vanishes into thin air. Wednesday stands over his mutilated body and sees the illustration his mother supposedly drew of her. Soon after, police officers led by the sheriff begin looking for Rowan's body but are unable to find it. As expected, the sheriff does not believe Wednesday's statement about a monster attacking Rowan and thinks it was a Nevermore student. An officer disrupts their conversation, and surprisingly, we see Rowan, who is very much alive. When Wednesday arrives at her room, she notices that her roommate, Enid, is too preoccupied with the Poe Cup competition, an annual boat riding game. Later, she tries talking to Rowan, but Principal Larissa informs her that he has been expelled for a reason she can't share. As a result, Wednesday reverts to Plan B and asks Thing to keep an eye on Rowan. The scene then cuts to Rowan, who has arrived at the train station with Thing closely following him. After observing the surroundings, he covertly heads to the restroom and changes his appearance into that of an old man. Unfortunately, Thing loses track of him and misses this transformation. Later, the old man changes to Principal Larissa. This reveals that she is actually a shapeshifter, and for some reason she is covering up Rowan's murder. Left with no options, Wednesday ventures into the woods to look for Rowan's murder clues. She is accompanied by Tyler, who is stalking his dad. After a while, she finds Rowan's glasses, and as she picks them up, she has a vision. In the vision, she sees a purple book from which Rowan got the drawing. Wasting no time, Wednesday confronts her class teacher about the book, and the latter reveals that it belonged to an old student society called the Nightshades. However, the society has been long disbanded. After school, Wednesday sneaks into Rowan's room to look for the book. She finds a mask underneath his bed, but before she can leave, Xavier arrives. It turns out he is Rowan's roommate. Wednesday quickly hides under the bed, and right then, Bianca also arrives to visit her ex. She overhears their conversation and learns that Bianca is planning to crush Enid in the upcoming boat riding competition. Hence, as soon as she returns to her room, Wednesday decides to help Enid by joining the competition so that they can take Bianca down. The next day, Wednesday, and Enid gear up for the competition. As there are no rules, it is all fair game, and Bianca is using this to her advantage. There are 4 teams, and the game is that they have to row their boat to a destination and be back. Whoever is the first one to arrive at the finish line without being knocked out in the lake is declared the winner. As the contest begins, Bianca hints at one of her friends who is ready to sabotage the other boats. The friend, who turns out to be a mermaid, dives into the lake and destroys one of the boats, knocking the team out. Thankfully, Wednesday and Enid are prepared, so with the help of Thing, they manage to capture the mermaid. However, during the contest, Wednesday has another vision. This time, she sees a blonde hair version of herself, and that version tells her she is the key. Confused, Wednesday snaps into reality only to find that Bianca's team is leading the race. Unwilling to give up, she and Enid decide to play dirty. They use Bianca's underhand methods against her, and finally, win the competition. With this, a non-siren team has won the esteemed competition for the first time in 4 decades. Later, the winning team is honored by Principal Larissa, who hands Enid the Poe Cup trophy. However, Wednesday is unable to withstand the attention, so she finds solace with Edgar Allan Poe, a former student of the Nevermore Academy. Suddenly, she sees a symbol underneath the stone book he's holding. It is the same symbol that was carved in the picture Rowan had handed her before he was mauled to death. Wednesday quickly solves a series of riddles etched in the book and finds a clue, that is, snapping twice. When she snaps twice, suddenly, a secret corridor opens, revealing a hidden chamber. There, Wednesday successfully finds Rowan's book from which he had torn the picture. She puts the book in her backpack, but before she can go further, someone thrusts a black sack over her head. Shortly after, when the sack is taken off, she finds herself surrounded by Bianca, Xavier, and a few more students who are members of the Nightshades Club. Turns out, although the group was previously disbanded, Principal Larissa reinstated it secretly. Xavier urges Wednesday to join their group, but she straightaway refuses and walks away. In the next scene, we see Principal Larissa announcing the annual Outreach Day, where the Nevermore students will have to mingle with normal people, also known as normies, by working alongside them at their establishments. Once they arrive in town, Wednesday tells Xavier that his roommate might have been murdered. The latter doesn't think Rowan is dead because he was only expelled. Despite this, Wednesday shows him the picture Rowan's mother drew. Xavier takes a close look at it and reveals that the man in the picture is actually the founder of Jericho, Joseph Crackstone. A while later, Wednesday decides to volunteer in the Pilgrim World, the place that holds Jericho's history. There, she meets Eugene, a young boy she had befriended in the beekeeping club. The two immediately get to talking and start observing the surroundings. Soon, the students are approached by Miss Arlene, the caretaker of the Pilgrim World. She gives them a tour and talks about some of Joseph Crackstone's beloved artifacts. Wednesday asks more about the artifacts and learns they have original farm tools, tableware, and even the family chamber pot. She wants to work there, but can't because it is being renovated. Instead, they're all going to work at the Ye Old Fudgery to distribute fudge and cakes to the local tourists. Later, Wednesday, with the assistance of Eugene, sneaks into the Crackstone family chamber. She finds a painting of the old meeting house, which includes the girl from her vision. Shortly after, she also finds the book which the girl was carrying. However, when Wednesday notices that the pages are blank, she suspects it is a fake. Just then, the caretaker, Arlene, arrives and catches her. Wednesday asks about the original book, and Arlene hesitatingly reveals that it was stolen last month. Later, Tyler and Wednesday reunite at the coffee shop. The latter inquires about Joseph Crackstone, and Tyler reveals that what is left of the original meeting house is out in the woods. It is pretty much a ruin, and meth heads use the place as a crash pad. Immediately, Wednesday and Thing enter the woods in search of Joseph Crackstone's place. They eventually find it and come across a homeless man, but Thing chokes him and scares him away. Suddenly, Wednesday experiences a vision. This time, she travels 400 years into the past. We see the blonde girl she encountered in the earlier vision. There are villagers who are encircling the girl as they call her the Devil's Spawn. Soon, Joseph Crackstone arises from the crowd and calls her Goody Adams. He accuses her of being a witch and condemns her to die in a barn stuffed with other accused folks, including her mother. In turn, Goody also accuses them of stealing their land, slaughtering the innocent, and robbing them of their peaceful spirit. Enraged, Joseph stares at her for a while and sets the barn ablaze. Goody tries to free her mom, but all her efforts go in vain. At last, when there is no hope left, she escapes via a trapdoor. Meanwhile, Wednesday observes all of this in the barn with them. Goody soon runs up to her and claims that Joseph won't cease his crusade until he's killed them all. With this revelation, Wednesday wakes up from her lengthy vision and explains everything to Thing. Suddenly, they see the same monster that killed Rowan lurking behind them. Wednesday runs after it in the rain, but can't keep up. Hence, she follows the footprints, which strangely start transforming into a human's. This reveals that the monster is actually a human. Right then, she runs into Xavier and tells him what she saw. He wants to look at the tracks, but the rain has already washed them away. The following day, everyone reunites in the town square for the unveiling of a new statue dedicated to Joseph Crackstone. Wednesday plays an instrumental version of Fleetwood Mac's Don't Stop with the Jericho Marching Band, while the mayor and Larissa announce the statue. However, disaster ensues when Thing, as per Wednesday's orders, sets the statue in flames. While others run away in horror, Wednesday's eyes gleam with vengeance as she swiftly plays the cello. Later, Principal Larissa tears into Wednesday, suspecting that she caused the incident. However, the teenager refuses to have done anything, and instead confronts Larissa for refusing to acknowledge the bloody racist truths on which Jericho was founded. That night, the homeless man from earlier is attacked by the monster, and his camera begins taking pictures of the incident. Moments later, the sheriff and his crew arrive at the forest ruins and find the homeless man dead. They discover footage on his camera that may reveal the culprit's face. After developing the photos, the sheriff looks upon the face of the killer, a monster born from nightmare. Wednesday and Thing making a pit stop at the Jericho coroner's office. Wednesday hopes to further examine the homeless man's body for potential case-breaking clues. She records her findings as she closely inspects the corpse. Suddenly, the sheriff and the coroner arrive in the office, so Wednesday hides. The pair discuss the case, and the coroner shows the sheriff the severed foot from the homeless man. It's missing 2 toes. After the sheriff departs, the coroner notices one of the doors on the mortuary shelf is cracked open. He finds Wednesday within, but the goth teenager is excellent at pretending to be a corpse, so he doesn't suspect anything. The scene cuts to Ms. Thornhill's class, where everyone's abuzz about the upcoming Raven dance. Xavier tells our protagonist about it, but she'd rather stick needles in her eyes. She later snoops around in Xavier's mysterious art studio and finds a plethora of sketches that look exactly like the monster. She hurriedly grabs a few drawings and flees, only to find the artist himself standing outside. Thankfully, he doesn't suspect anything, and instead muses whether she might ask him to the Raven dance. To conceal her breaking into his studio, Wednesday asks Xavier to accompany her to the dance. He accepts. Next, Wednesday visits the sheriff with Xavier's drawings. The sheriff holds one sketch next to the photo he found on the homeless man's camera roll. It's a match. The sheriff reluctantly agrees to work with her if she brings substantial evidence to the table. She does suspect Xavier, though. After all, he can bring artwork to life. Meanwhile, Enid runs into Lucas at the coffee shop. Lucas is the mayor's son and a flatline bully. He asks Enid out to the Raven, to which she accepts immediately. Wednesday runs into Tyler, who expresses romantic interest in her. He wants to attend the dance with her. However, Wednesday claims she must prioritize, hurting Tyler's feelings. Then, Wednesday accompanies Eugene to the beekeeping club. She shows him the sketches, and Eugene seems to recognize the cave in the picture. He then takes her to a nearby cave, claiming that he saw it when he was out researching bees. There, they find a claw lodged in the cave wall. Next, Wednesday returns to Xavier's art studio to find a piece of evidence with DNA that'll match the claw. She finds a bloody rag and puts it inside her bag. Suddenly, Xavier catches her red-handed. He realizes she had ulterior motives for asking him to the dance. Wednesday inquires if he's the monster. Xavier explains that this creature has been haunting his dreams for a while, so he sketched its likeness on paper. Unfortunately, the beast came to life, and its claws scratched Xavier's neck. Having realized that Wednesday had tricked him, Xavier angrily kicks her out. Later, our goth gal drops the claw and bloody rag on the sheriff's desk. She then orders him to run tests on them. Meanwhile, Thing discreetly types a note on Wednesday's typewriter and drops it off at the coffee shop for Tyler to read. It's Raven dance night. While other students attend the event, wearing glamorous dresses, Wednesday plans to do cave research with Eugene. Suddenly, Tyler knocks on her door with a bouquet. Turns out, Thing crafted a tender apology for Tyler, luring him to the dance on Wednesday. He also managed to get a gorgeous black gown. Initially, Wednesday is annoyed with Thing for acting without her knowledge. However, all is forgiven when she sees the stunning dress. Tyler is smitten when he sees our protagonist adorned in that dress. Sadly, Eugene is taken aback to find Wednesday changing plans all of a sudden. She reassures him that they'll resume their investigation the following day. She also urges him not to go into the woods alone. However, he defies her order and embarks on a solo quest. On the dance floor, everybody is stunned to see Wednesday clad in such a beautiful dress. Xavier cannot contain his feelings for her, so he approaches her. He finally tells her about the lingering beef between him and the sheriff's son. After that, Wednesday informs Tyler about her conversation with Xavier. We learn that Tyler used to hang out with the bullies. They destroyed Xavier's wall painting and assaulted him during last year's outreach day. Tyler explains he's not that person anymore. Wednesday doesn't blame him, claiming she would have gone further. Meanwhile, we see Lucas text his friends who plan on exacting revenge against the outcasts for the burning of the Joseph Crackstone statue. Next, Wednesday performs her exceptional goth dance steps on the floor, surprising everyone. Elsewhere in the woods, Eugene has returned to the cave site. He observes while someone sets it on fire. Back in the dance, Lucas and the bullies turn on the sprinklers at the dance, squirting red liquid all over. The dance floor is now drowned in red paint. Everyone screams and tries to run, but they just end up falling again and again. Suddenly, Wednesday has a vision featuring a terrified Eugene and his death. Wasting no time, she runs for the woods to find him. Meanwhile, Eugene tries to escape the monster after hearing its snarls. Wednesday calls out for him, but to no avail. Unfortunately, the creature attacks Eugene before she can reach him. When she finds Eugene, he's covered head to toe in blood. The class teacher, Miss Thornhill, also arrives at the scene and inquires if he's alive. In the next scene, we see Wednesday flipping through her father's police file. We flash back 32 years ago to one stormy night when young Larissa finds a dead body in the Nevermore courtyard. Young Gomez stands on some scaffolding while holding a sword. He's covered in blood. We see the police taking Gomez away, while young Morticia confesses she's never been more in love with him than watching him get handcuffed for murder. Now, we're in the present for Nevermore's Parents' Weekend. Gomez, Morticia, Pugsley, and Lurch arrive in style. As per usual, Principal Larissa delivers a speech for all the visiting families and their students. Enid laments the entrance of her werewolf family. Sure enough, Enid's mother instantly criticizes her daughter, namely for not developing her lycanthrope abilities. Meanwhile, Morticia and Gomez meet their child and question her about her time at Nevermore. We also see Bianca's mother, Gabrielle, making an appearance at the event. Later, Morticia peruses Larissa's yearbook and reminisces on fond memories. She remembers when Larissa and Morticia performed for the talent show, and Larissa's Judy Garland impression was spot on. Principal Larissa informs the Addams crew that Wednesday's therapist wants them to attend a group session. The Addams agree to get therapized. Meanwhile, Sheriff Galpin is on his phone at the coffee shop, asking about the DNA test on the monster's claw. He spots the arrival of the Addams family's sleek black car. Then, the sheriff gets a call regarding the medical examiner, Dr. Anwar, who committed suicide. Next, the Addams clan sits with Dr. Valerie Kinbot for a group chat. Pugsley admits that he misses his sister, as do Gomez and Morticia. But Wednesday is in for something else. She whips out her father's police file and demands some answers. Who is Garrett Gates, and why did Gomez kill him? A furious Morticia reprimands her daughter for searching up this info now. This is an old case, and the charges against Gomez were dropped. Enraged, Morticia storms out. Then, Wednesday tells her mother she plans to dig deep into whether the latter supports her. Meanwhile, Bianca meets with Gabrielle at the coffee shop, who reveals the real reason why she's in town. Gabrielle leads a cult called Morning Song, where she manipulates people for money. However, her siren song is weakening. She married a guy Bianca despises named Gideon, and they both hope Bianca, who changed her name when she arrived at Nevermore, will come home soon. Otherwise, Gabrielle will have to let slip the news that Bianca cheated her way into the academy. In the next scene, Wednesday visits Eugene in the hospital. The poor boy is in a coma in the ICU. Our goth girl blames herself for allowing the monster to attack Eugene. Eugene's mothers pop in for a visit, and they thank Wednesday for her friendship as Eugene never had any friend. Elsewhere, the sheriff stops by the morgue to survey the scene. Dr. Anwar left a note before killing himself, claiming his regret is forging documents on a murder case from 3 decades ago. Unfortunately, someone put black gum on the camera, so it's obscured, and the police won't be able to know what really happened to Dr. Anwar. However, the sheriff believes the case the late coroner regretted manipulating was the Gomez Addams / Garrett Gates one. Now he has the evidence. He needs to lock up Gomez. Next, Wednesday watches while Morticia lays a red rose on Garrett's grave. While everyone's feasting in the school courtyard for the festivities, Sheriff Galpin barges in to arrest Gomez. The Addams family stands in shock as Gomez is handcuffed and taken away. Later Wednesday, and Thing visit her father in jail. She demands to know the truth. He reveals that Garrett became obsessed with Morticia, was stalking her even. Morticia reported it to the police, but to no avail. Finally, Gomez took an enraged Garrett down. After hearing his story, Wednesday's not so sure her father is guilty. Meanwhile, Enid's mother presents her with brochures for a lycanthrope conversion summer camp. The camp is meant for Enid to forcefully turn her into a werewolf, as she hasn't become one yet. Naturally, Enid protests this. Later, we see Morticia standing in the meeting place for the Nightshades when Wednesday visits her. Morticia discloses the truth of what occurred that fateful night. While Gomez was attempting to fend off Garrett, Morticia noticed how the latter foamed at the mouth in pure rage. Left with no choice, she stabbed him. After his body fell onto the courtyard below and was subsequently discovered by Larissa, Gomez grabbed the sword and urged Morticia to hide in her room. Turns out Gomez took the blame for Morticia. After hearing that Garrett was foaming at the mouth, Wednesday muses whether he was plagued with something. Morticia follows her daughter's train of thought. Thus, the duo embarks on a trip to the Jericho cemetery. Wednesday digs up Garrett's grave for evidence, but the cops catch them and arrest the pair. We see them thrown into a cell next to Gomez. Thankfully, Wednesday managed to retrieve something from the grave and shows it to her parents. It's a finger tinged with blue, the color of nightshade. They realize that Garrett was already dying when Morticia stabbed him. Nightshade poisoned him. Suddenly, Wednesday has a vision. In the vision, Garrett's father orders Garrett to poison everyone at Nevermore with nightshade. We see a vial of poison pass between the two. Wednesday notes that said vial broke in Garrett's pocket, thereby poisoning. After their release, our mother-daughter duo presents their case to Mayor Walker. Morticia accuses him of saving his own skin. When she informed him about Garrett stalking her, Walker did nothing about it when he was sheriff. He tried to cover up the case. Wednesday then shows him Garrett's nightshaded finger. Morticia orders Walker to let her husband go free. Otherwise, she'll expose him for the fraud he is. Thankfully, he complies. As a consequence, all charges against Gomez are dropped a second time. Even Sheriff Galpin apologizes to Gomez, and the two shake hands. Meanwhile, Enid takes a stand against her mother and orders the latter to accept her for who she is. She'll turn into a werewolf when the time is right for her. At the end of the parent-teacher weekend, Wednesday bids farewell to her family. Later, after peering in Larissa's yearbook, Wednesday confronts her principal. Larissa didn't just imitate Judy Garland for Nevermore's talent show, she became Judy Garland. This means Wednesday has found out the truth about their principal. She is a shapeshifter. She transformed into Rowan the day after his murder to convince everyone that nothing was amiss. Larissa claims she did what she could to shield the school from controversy. Wednesday asks the shape-shifting principal how she's protecting Eugene. Suddenly, Larissa and Wednesday hear clamoring and shouts outside. They find the message, "Fire will rain," written in fire, on the school lawn. Wednesday, performing a ritual to contact her ancestor, Goody Adams. She hopes that her ancestor will help her in controlling her psychic power. Enid pops in, breaking Wednesday's concentration. While the two chat, a mysterious someone slips a note card underneath their door. It says if Wednesday wants answers, she must go to Joseph Crackstone's crypt at midnight. Enid accompanies Wednesday to the crypt, and it turns out to be a birthday surprise party for our goth heroine. As they sing her happy birthday, she notices the writing on the old fireplace is the same as the writings burned on the school's lawn. Suddenly, she gets a vision and sees Goody warning her about Crackstone's impending visit. Goody cannot help her hone her psychic powers, but she can direct Wednesday toward her next step. The latter must explore the decrepit mansion looming before them. It holds the answers she seeks. Elsewhere, Principal Larissa visits the mayor and asks for his help tracking down the delinquents who left the burning message in her school. The mayor is happy to oblige and also tells her they are working on finding the person behind the recent attacks. Back at the academy, Xavier stands next to Wednesday while she examines the "Fire will rain" message on the school lawn. Xavier tries to find out the vision Wednesday had in the crypt. Since she still views him as a suspect in the ongoing investigation, she refuses to disclose any information. Later, Wednesday visits Eugene, who's still in a coma. Dr. Valerie Kinbutt enters the room with flowers. Eugene's moms ask the doctor to check up on him when they head home for a few days. She tries to get close to Wednesday, but she is not looking for a free session, so she leaves the room. Meanwhile, the mayor continues his investigation. He receives the death certificate of Garrett's sister, who supposedly drowned while overseas. He is suspicious of her death and wants to make sure it is not related to the recent attacks. In the local coffee shop, Wednesday visits Tyler, who wants to take her out on a date on her birthday. However, as usual, she gives him the cold shoulder. The sheriff drops in, and Wednesday informs him about what she found in Crackstone's crypt, but he essentially tells her to stop investigating the case. Later, Wednesday and Thing visit Xavier in his art studio. She shows him a sketch she created of the creepy gated mansion from her vision. Xavier whips out the drawing he made of the same area, revealing he started having those strange dreams again. The gated mansion used to belong to the Gates family. The next morning, Wednesday visits the mansion and sees the mayor leaving the house. She and Thing hop in the back of his car after overhearing his voicemail to the sheriff. He thinks he has figured out who is behind the attacks and asks to meet the sheriff at the cafe. He drives to the cafe, unaware that Wednesday and Thing are hiding behind. When they arrive in town, a blue Cadillac hits the mayor as he crosses the street to meet with the sheriff. Following the incident, the sheriff records a statement from Wednesday, who claims she crawled into the back of Walker's car to learn more about what he had discovered at the Gates mansion. Once back at Nevermore, the principal reprimands Wednesday by revoking her outside privileges, that is, going into town. The next morning, Wednesday calls Tyler and tells him that she has reconsidered his offer for a date. But we know that this is only an excuse for our heroine to get out of the academy and continue her investigation. She then tricks Enid to sneak out of the school and have a redo of her birthday party. They sneak out and Tyler picks them up outside. Meanwhile, Xavier knocks on Wednesday and Enid's window, wherein he finds Thing pounding away on the typewriter. Thing reveals to him where the girls are headed. Next, our trio forges ahead into the Gates mansion, much to Enid and Tyler's shock. They finally realize they have been tricked by Wednesday. Tyler is disappointed as he thought they were going on a private date. Enid is disappointed as she thought they were going to have a girls' night out. However, they continue with Wednesday inside the mansion. At the mansion, Wednesday uncovers the blue Cadillac that struck the mayor. Then, while inside, she finds a hidden altar for Joseph Crackstone, and the candles are still warm. Everyone splits up to search the ostensibly haunted mansion. Next, Enid calls for Wednesday, and the pair investigate one bedroom that appears perfectly organized and tidy. The bed's made, and there are fresh flowers. Wednesday finds a music box with the initials LG on it, Laurel Gates. That's the name of the file Walker perused earlier. Before they can investigate further, Enid and Wednesday hear Tyler screaming for help, warning them about the monster. The monster chases the girls through the house, and they find themselves in a basement. In the basement, they find the trophies the monster took from his victims. These trophies are body parts that belong to the murderer's victims. They don't have much time, so they get out of the house and circle back to find Tyler. They find him alive, but with long claw marks on his chest. Xavier also arrives at that moment and helps them with Tyler. They then take Tyler back to his house. The sheriff wanders in and orders the Nevermore kids to depart. Next, Wednesday takes the sheriff back to the Gates house, but everything has been cleared out. There is no sign of the trophies or the monster. The sheriff thinks that she is lying, and he is angry that she endangered his son's life. Wednesday is forbidden from seeing his son again. Once back in her room, she examines the music box that she retrieved from the mansion. Suddenly, a flurry of photos falls out from its bottom. They're all of Wednesday and her loved ones. Elsewhere in the hospital, we see someone with a gloved hand unplugging Walker's ventilator while unconscious in the hospital. The next scene shows Mayor Walker's funeral. Whoever unplugged his ventilator effectively killed him. Wednesday observes the mourners, thoroughly convinced the murderer is right under her nose. Suddenly, she spots a stranger lurking in the distance. She follows the stranger into the surrounding woods to discover it's none other than Uncle Fester. Fester tells his niece he needs a place to lay low for a few days after a job. Wednesday puts him up in Eugene's beehive barn. She then discusses her case at hand with her uncle. Fester mentions the creature our heroine is looking for is called Hyde. Nathaniel Faulkner, who founded Nevermore Academy, studied the monsters extensively. Fester reveals that Faulkner kept his diary in the Nightshade's library. Wednesday proposes they head there later to retrieve it. Later that night, Wednesday visits the secret Nightshade's room. The uncle-niece duo absconds with Faulkner's diary. Next, Wednesday peruses the diary. She finds plenty of information on Hydes. They're artists by nature, meaning they are normal people. The Hyde side remains dormant until someone unlocks it via hypnosis or chemical inducement. It can also be unleashed as the result of a traumatic event. The Hyde inevitably bonds with its liberator, aka its master. The next morning, Wednesday spies on Xavier as she is convinced he is the monster. She and Fester secretly follow him and spy on him as he meets Dr. Kinbot in the woods. She thinks that Dr. Kinbot is the master and rushes to tell the principal. However, when she arrives at the principal's office, Wednesday is shocked to find the therapist there and decides not to inform the principal anymore. Later, Wednesday visits the cafe and shows the diary to Tyler. His dad sees them and chooses to ignore him. He is busy trying to find Fester, who apparently was involved in a bank robbery. After the sheriff leaves, Tyler asks Wednesday on a date and refuses to take no for an answer. They plan to meet at the Crackstone's crypt. Later that night, Wednesday goes to the date and asks Thing to stay back and watch the diary. At the crypt, Tyler has prepared a sweet and romantic date and Wednesday finds herself enjoying it. Tyler reasserts his desire to be more than friends, but our goth girl tries to talk him out of it. When Tyler romantically inches closer to kiss, his father, the sheriff, barges in with his team. The cops are looking for Fester. After her interrupted date, Wednesday returns to her dorm to find it ransacked. Whoever did this also stole Faulkner's diary. The culprit also stabbed Thing through the palm and affixed him to the wall. Wednesday rushes Thing to Uncle Fester and demands he does something. Fester warms up his electrical abilities and attempts to resuscitate Thing via electroshock. Thankfully, Fester succeeds, bringing Thing back to life. Wednesday asks her uncle to leave the school premises the next day as the police are closing in. The next day, Bianca and Luca approach Wednesday and tell her they have information on the person who killed the mayor. Lucas found some information his dad left on his laptop. He thinks his dad recognized Laurel and was about to out her when she killed him. According to them, a 90-year-old heiress purchased the Gates mansion and passed a year later. Her caretaker's name was an anagram of Laurel Gates. So, Laurel returned to Jericho to exact revenge on those who harmed her family. Wednesday's parents, the mayor and the coroner, are prime examples of this. Wednesday suspects that Dr. Valerie Kinbot is the killer. Next, she decides to visit her therapist, Dr. Kinbot, who she thinks is the master of the hide, and confront her. The therapist is confused by her accusations and thinks Wednesday has finally lost it. After Wednesday leaves, Dr. Kinbot calls the principal to complain about Wednesday's vile accusations. While on the phone, she hears someone in the bathroom. Upon opening the door, we see the Hyde monster spring on the doctor. Later, Principal Larissa sits with Wednesday in the hospital's waiting room when the sheriff informs them of Dr. Kinbot's death. Wednesday decides to end it all, so she goes to Xavier's secret art studio and confronts him. She notes how intricate and accurate his sketches of the Hyde monster are. Xavier continues to deny the accusations. Suddenly, the sheriff and his crew barge into the studio, having found the victim's belongings in Xavier's studio. With evidence on hand, they arrest Xavier. Poor Xavier repeatedly tells the police that he is being framed, but no one believes him. Next, Wednesday wanders into the local coffee shop. After some flirting, she finally kisses Tyler. However, she's slammed to the ground by a powerful vision. In the vision, she sees Dr. Kinbot lying in a pool of blood with none other than Tyler, who has just transformed from a raging monster to a human. He remains shirtless and bloody, looming above Dr. Kinbot's lifeless body. Turns out, Xavier is innocent after all. Wednesday rushes out of the shop post-vision, paralyzed with fear, leaving Tyler confused about what went wrong. Later that night, our heroine calls Tyler into the woods. He thinks it's another date, but Wednesday reveals him as the Hyde monster. Naturally, Tyler denies it and wonders why she would meet him alone if he were the murderous creature. To his surprise, a handful of Nightshades members, including Bianca and Yoko, emerge from the shadows to back up Wednesday. They take him to Xavier's art studio and tie him down on the chair with chains. Wednesday starts interrogating him. As it turns out, Tyler's mom was a Hyde, and she thinks Tyler got the genes from her. He claims his mother had severe bipolar disorder, but she was a Hyde, as is he. Tyler then vehemently denies everything. Wednesday is not moved by his fake plea and switches it up to torture him, believing that a Hyde only understands pain, so perhaps torturing will trigger Tyler. Next, Wednesday whips out 2 tasers, giving the other students a pause. They didn't sign up for a torture session. When Wednesday begins shocking Tyler, others leave as they don't want to be involved anymore. Meanwhile, the sheriff listens to recordings from Dr. Kinbot's sessions with Tyler. Turns out he was one of her clients as well. She explains how the loss of his mother left deeper psychological scars than she initially realized. Just then, the sheriff gets a call from Principal Larissa, informing him about Tyler's kidnapping. Bianca and the others had rushed to inform the principal about what's happening. Next, the sheriff and his crew barge into the art studio before Wednesday can inflict more pain on Tyler. Wednesday and Tyler are taken to the police station. Principal Larissa tells Wednesday that Galpin won't press kidnapping charges. As Wednesday is about to leave the police station, Tyler asks to speak to her privately. He confesses to the crime and tells her that every time he killed, he felt thrilled by his victim's fear. He warns her that she has no idea what is coming next. Consequently, the principal decides enough is enough and expels Wednesday and tells her to get ready to leave the school the next afternoon. Wednesday tries to convince her to give her more time to prove that Tyler is a Hyde. The principal refuses and says she is disappointed in how Wednesday turned out to be. Next, Wednesday and Enid bid a bittersweet farewell. She even shares a goodbye with Bianca and the Nightshades and warns them to be prepared for what Tyler is planning next. Meanwhile, Ms. Thornhill also gives her white oleander as a parting gift and wishes her the best. Before leaving town, Wednesday visits Eugene, who is awake from his coma. At the hospital, Eugene sits upright in his bed, surrounded by bee-themed gifts. Our beekeeping club besties finally reunite. Wednesday asserts that Dr. Kinbot set the hide cave ablaze, and she controlled Tyler before he turned on her. However, Eugene recalls seeing someone wearing a black coat and boots before the cave burst into flames. Red boots, to be exact. Wednesday quickly realizes that the only person she has seen with red boots is Ms. Thornhill. Next, she returns to the school and confronts Ms. Thornhill, aka Laurel Gates, in the school's conservatory. Ms. Thornhill initially brushes off the accusations but grows increasingly frustrated with Wednesday's persistence. Wednesday tells her that Tyler confessed everything to her. She points out Ms. Thornhill's wicked plans and how she triggered Tyler's hide via plant chemicals. Now, Tyler refers to her as his master. Meanwhile, Tyler appears from behind and watches the confrontation. Faced with the bare facts stated by Wednesday, Ms. Thornhill confesses and asks Tyler to kill Wednesday. Only that Tyler isn't the real one, it is Principal Larissa, who is shapeshifted into the boy. The principal swiftly transforms back, much to Ms. Thornhill's surprise. She then asks Ms. Thornhill/Laurel to cooperate. Ms. Thornhill, at loss, injects Larissa with nightshade poison. Unfortunately, the principal Larissa dies. Seconds after the poisoning, then Ms. Thornhill knocks Wednesday unconscious with a shovel. Meanwhile, Eugene video calls Enid and reveals Ms. Thornhill is the baddie, and Wednesday and Principal Larissa went to confront her. Enid vows to check the conservatory for them. Just then, Thing arrives and frantically fills Enid in on the dire situation and Wednesday's kidnapping. Then, we see a blood moon rising in the sky. Wednesday wakes in the crypt while chained to the wall. Ms. Thornhill reveals her plan to eradicate the school. She is planning to bring back Crackstone using the body parts of Tyler as a hide collected from his victims. Turns out, Goody didn't only kill Crackstone, she cursed his soul too. Ms. Thornhill hopes to use Wednesday to unseal the blood lock on the tomb that Goody locked Crackstone in. We learn that Wednesday is the key to opening it up as she is the living descendant of Goody. The ritual needs to be done on a night of a blood moon, so Ms. Thornhill has it all planned. In the meantime, the sheriff is on his way transporting the falsely accused Xavier to prison. But when he gets a call from an officer alerting him that Eugene's parents believe something wrong is happening at Nevermore, he decides to go to the school. Back at the crypt, Ms. Thornhill moves Wednesday to the seal on Crackstone's tomb and slices the latter's hand. The ritual awakens Crackstone, who promises his vengeance will be swift and true. Wednesday tries to confront him, but he stabs her, and they leave her for dead. Thankfully, Goody appears before her and tells her how to defeat Crackstone. She tells her to use the talisman necklace her mom gave to her. The talisman will allow Goody to pass through Wednesday and heal her, but she will never be able to see her again. Wednesday agrees and is healed by her ancestor. Back at the academy, Enid meets with Bianca and the Nightshades in the Nightshades library. Enid suggests the Nightshades and the Sirens use their manipulative ability to evacuate the school. She then volunteers to take Thing and search the woods for Wednesday. As she rushes to save Wednesday on Blood Moon Night, Enid finally starts transforming into a werewolf. Back in the woods, the sheriff changes his mind and decides to track the location of his son. He leaves Xavier locked in his car and heads into the woods. Thankfully, Xavier is freed by Thing. After being healed, Wednesday rushes to stop Crackstone but meets Tyler on the way. He morphs into his hide monster and starts attacking her. But Enid appears in her full wolf form and starts fighting the monster. Meanwhile, Crackstone arrives at the school and begins destroying everything in sight. The battle between the werewolf and the hide turns into a brutal, bloody bath. Enid walks away victorious, transforming into a human in time for Thing to find her. The sheriff discovers Tyler lying unconscious and naked in the leaves, covered in blood. Next, Wednesday returns to Nevermore and arms herself with her father's sword. She prepares to slash Crackstone, but he is too strong. Xavier arrives at the scene and shoots an arrow at Crackstone, but the Walking Dead turns the arrow back in the former's direction. Wednesday steps in front of it, taking said arrow in the shoulder. Wednesday rises to her feet and continues fighting Crackstone. Unfortunately, her sword snaps into several pieces. Our smart heroine remembers what Goody told her about defeating Crackstone and stabs him in the heart with a piece of what's left of the sword. He dissipates into thin air, but the fight is not over as Ms. Thornhill charges in with a gun. Luckily, Eugene makes his grand entrance with his bees and makes them attack her. The school is finally saved. Later, Enid reunites with the Nevermore students hiding out in the woods. Then, she runs to embrace Wednesday. In the next scene, we see the Addams family butler, Lurch, removing the last of Wednesday's belongings from her room. Classes have been canceled for the remainder of the semester. Wednesday bids farewell to her friends and then spots Xavier lounging on the floor above her. Xavier gives her a gift. It's a phone, and he even puts his number in the contacts. The final scene of the series shows Lurch driving Wednesday home. While sitting in the back seat of the family car, she receives a text from a mysterious someone. They send her pictures, claiming they're watching her. Meanwhile, we see an armored truck on the road with a subdued and bound Tyler inside. Suddenly, he wakes and begins transforming into his Hyde monster. Wednesday Season 2 begins with the chilling scene that felt straight out of a horror movie. In a dimly lit basement filled with macabre dolls, each one a terrifying hand-stitched effigy of a young girl, our protagonist, Wednesday Addams, sat tied to a chair. The house belonged to a notorious serial killer, but Wednesday wasn't a terrified victim. She was a willing participant in her own capture. It was all part of a plan. 6 weeks earlier, she had begun honing her psychic abilities, learning to control them not for noble purposes, but to satisfy her insatiable curiosity. Since she was 6, she had been obsessed with the city's most elusive serial killer, known as the Kansas City Scalper. With the help of her loyal disembodied hand, Thing, she acquired an object from one of the killer's crime scenes. Using it as a psychic medium, she received a vivid vision of his whereabouts. With a determined look in her eyes and no regard for her own safety, she packed a bag and set off to find him. Facing a notorious serial killer all on her own, Wednesday showed no fear. She simply played along, letting him capture and tie her up. That was her goal all along. As the killer prepared to deliver his grim show, proudly presenting a doll he'd made to commemorate her as his latest victim, Thing suddenly appeared. The severed hand attacked the man, giving Wednesday the time she needed to free herself from the ropes. After the killer lay unconscious, Thing noticed something peculiar. A single black tear rolled down Wednesday's cheek. She dismissed it as a simple psychic glitch and instructed Thing to keep it a secret from everyone, especially her mother. Meanwhile, elsewhere, a man with a camera was secretly watching a couple from a distance. As he snapped photos, a murder of crows began to watch him with unnerving intensity. The birds gave him a sudden chill, and as if on command, they swarmed him. He scrambled into his van, quickly making a panicked phone call to a mysterious contact, telling them he had been spotted, but that he'd secured some sort of evidence for them. As soon as he hung up, he saw more crows inside his car. He knew his time was up. The holiday ended, and the Addams family drove to Nevermore Academy, a boarding school for outcasts, kids with supernatural abilities. It was Pugsley Addams's first day and experience for him. For Wednesday, however, it was just another day of misery. She had no interest in interacting with the other students. Upon their arrival, Wednesday was immediately the center of attention. Students whispered about her heroic actions in the first season, where she used her intellect and abilities to stop a killer monster known as a Hyde from destroying the school. She was soon greeted by the new principal, Barry Dort, who introduced himself and outlined his plan to restore Nevermore to its former glory. He mentioned how the last principal's actions had completely messed up the school's reputation and system. After the chaotic welcome, Wednesday went to her dorm room, only to be met with another sight that was an eyesore to her sensibilities. The door was covered with drawings of her and glowing praises of her heroic actions. But it got worse. When she opened the door, she found a lively party in full swing, a scene she utterly despised. Her colorful roommate and best friend, Enid Sinclair, a werewolf who had not yet fully wolfed out, quickly shooed everyone out and greeted Wednesday with an ecstatic hug. Once they were alone, Enid chattered excitedly about her summer, giving Wednesday a brightly colored t-shirt from Lupin Palooza, the school's annual dance party. In return, Wednesday gave her a gift from the Kansas City Scalpers collection, a creepy, morbid doll. Enid then shared her ambitious resolutions for the year. She wanted to finally wolf out and become part of a pack, earn the position of dance captain, and join the Nightshade Society, a secret student society that Wednesday had revived in the first season. Wednesday, in stark contrast, simply stated her goal was to have some reclusive time to finish her novel. She began showing Enid her revisions when a knock came at their door. It was Ajax, a Gorgon who had been in a relationship with Enid all summer. He handed Wednesday a gift for Enid, asking her to pass it along, then quickly scurried away. A short while later, Wednesday opened the door when suddenly a crossbow trap was triggered, launching an arrow straight at her. While it missed, its true purpose was to reveal a photograph attached to the arrow's shaft. The picture showed Wednesday talking to the new principal that morning, and a chilling message was scrawled on it. "Welcome back, Wednesday. I'm still watching." This confirmed she had a stalker. She took the photo and tried to use her psychic ability to get a vision of the perpetrator, but the power fizzled out. Instead, a black tear rolled down her eye, a phenomenon Enid immediately noticed. Wednesday, however, brushed it off, claiming it was nothing. Meanwhile, the parents of the Adams family, Gomez and Morticia Adams, accompanied Pugsley to his new dorm room, which Gomez recognized as his old room from his days at Nevermore. He nostalgically pointed out the things he remembered. Meanwhile, Morticia and Pugsley greeted his roommate, Eugene, a student who had helped Wednesday save the school from the Hyde monster in the first season, using his ability to control bees. Pugsley revealed his own newly discovered ability, generating static electricity with a handshake. After the parents left, Eugene showed off his bug-controlling ability, which Pugsley morbidly referred the insects as midnight munchies. Soon after, Ajax showed up to greet them as the newly appointed resident advisor of their dorm, Caliban Hall. Later, as Wednesday walked through the schoolyard, she saw her parents talking to Principal Dort. She learned that the principal had appointed her mother to chair the school's gala fundraising committee, replacing the previous chair, Vincent Thorpe. Dort explained that Thorpe had pulled both his son, Xavier Thorpe, a fellow outcast, and Wednesday's love interest in the first season, and his financial endowment from the school. To sweeten the deal, Dort revealed that he had a special place prepared for the Addams family to stay during the gala. While they looked at the place, Morticia showed concern for her daughter, Wednesday, who had lost her spiritual guide, her deceased ancestor, Goody Adams. Wednesday's raven psychic abilities were a stark contrast to her mother's more gentle dove power, but Morticia offered to help guide her daughter until a new guide appeared. Wednesday, however, bluntly refused, knowing that their abilities were fundamentally different. Morticia persisted, her worries mounting, as she remembered a tragic past event involving her sister, who also had the same raven psychic power. Wednesday reminded her so much of her sister, and Morticia didn't want the same fate to befall her daughter. But Wednesday, never one to be on the same page as her mother, simply brushed her concerns off and left. Morticia knew her daughter was hiding something from her. Leaving her mother behind, Wednesday and Thing took a walk in the forest around the school. As they ventured deeper, they stumbled upon a crime scene. Police officers and medics were gathered around a body, the same man who was attacked by the crows. He was identified as a local investigator, found in a gruesome condition. The sheriff, Richie Santiago, greeted Wednesday, recognizing her from her exploits in the last season. Wednesday, however, saw someone familiar from afar and went after them. It turned out to be the previous sheriff, Donovan Galpin, the father of Tyler Galpin, the Hyde monster who had caused chaos in Nevermore during the first season. Donovan explained he was there because the victim was a colleague of his, and they were both working on a case related to the outcasts, the supernatural residents of the town of Jericho. Wednesday was surprised that he would care about a case involving outcasts, especially after what his son had done. Donovan simply said that his son was an outcast, and that was reason enough for him to care. Knowing Wednesday's unique abilities, Donovan asked for her help, but Wednesday refused. She had no interest in working with a normal human, especially one with a complicated history with outcasts. Before she left, Donovan gave her a cryptic warning: the birds are always watching. That night, the boys of Caliban Hall gathered around a fire for a ritual. Ajax took the opportunity to tell the new students about an eerie urban legend of Nevermore Academy called the Skull Tree. It was said to be the resting place of a genius boy with a clockwork heart who worked himself to death. His restless soul remained, and if one listened closely through the left eye of the skull, one could hear the faint ticking of his clockwork heart. At the same time, Bianca, a siren and a friend of Wednesday, was summoned to Principal Dort's office. Their conversation revealed just how ambitious Principal Barry Dort was. He was willing to go to any length to achieve his dreams. He revealed that he had called Bianca to ask for her help in persuading Morticia to attend the fundraising gala as the student liaison. He knew that as a siren, she had the power to control people with her voice, and he wanted to use that to his advantage. When Bianca hesitated, he threatened to revoke her scholarship if she refused, showing his true colors. Later that night, as Wednesday was playing her cello in the music room, she was approached by the Academy's new music teacher, Ms. Capri. Wednesday immediately recognized the name. She was once a famous prodigy in the music world. The next day, the Academy was buzzing with preparations for the Founders' Pyre, a bonfire event. Principal Dort walked with Morticia Adams, showing her what he had prepared and touting his newfound dedication to the good of all outcasts. He once again asked Morticia to officially accept his invitation to chair the fundraising. Just as he finished his pitch, Bianca showed up and introduced herself as the student liaison appointed to help Morticia with the event. Meanwhile, when Wednesday returned to her dorm room, Enid handed her a letter. It was from Xavier. The letter contained a strange drawing of a one-eyed crow. Xavier explained through the letter that he had a vision of the image and was sure it was connected to Wednesday. After reading the letter, Enid announced her plan to attend the Founders' Pyre with Thing and asked if Wednesday would join them. Wednesday, however, had just noticed that someone had used her typewriter. A strange message was on the paper, implicitly referring to the novel she was writing. When she checked her desk drawer, she found another note with a riddle on it, and her novel was gone. The message made it clear that her stalker had taken the novel and intended to burn it during the Founders' Pyre. Refusing to lose all her hard work, Wednesday decided she would go to the event to find the stalker. Later that night, with the pyre just minutes away from being lit, Wednesday and Enid scanned the crowd for the stalker. As they walked near the pyre, a group of students bumped into Wednesday. She immediately felt something in her pocket and reached for it, but a sharp sting made her pull back her bleeding fingers. She carefully reached inside again and found a letter stuck with razors. The letter contained a new clue, instructing her to find the stalker under the pyre if she wanted her novel back. Wednesday, determined to get her work back, started crawling into the pyre, disassembling the branches as she went. Enid tried to stop her, but Ajax intervened, pulling Enid away and confronting her about why she had been avoiding him. As Wednesday crawled deeper into the pyre, Ms. Capri took the stage and began the event with a powerful performance from her siren choir. After the incredible performance, Principal Dort came on stage and greeted the students. Meanwhile, Wednesday was still desperately searching for her novel inside the pyre. Enid, who was now aware of what Wednesday was doing, yelled at her to get out, warning her that the pyre would be lit soon. But Wednesday's sole focus was her novel, which was just out of reach. On stage, Principal Dort made a shocking announcement. He intended to abolish the Nightshades, the school's secret society. The students clapped, but their applause was reluctant and uncertain. Then, using his power, the principal shot a fireball at the pyre. The bonfire immediately burst into flames, with Wednesday still inside. As Enid desperately begged the principal to stop the fire, Wednesday emerged from the pyre, safe and sound but a bit burnt. The students, relieved, parted to give her a guard of honor, leading her onto the stage. The principal seized the moment to reveal a grand commemorative picture of Wednesday and her friends, celebrating their heroic actions. Wednesday, however, looked utterly annoyed. She snatched the mic from the principal and, to the enthusiastic cheers of the crowd, began her fiery speech. But she was never on the same page as them. She despised being treated like a hero, believing what she did was simply a matter of course. With a dramatic flourish, she grabbed a torch, set the grand picture ablaze, and descended from the stage, leaving the students in stunned disbelief. While the drama unfolded, Pugsley Adams had slipped into the forest. Determined to prove the legend of the skull tree, he approached the eerie tree, putting his ear to the left eye. He was startled when a crow flew out of it, causing him to fall. His newfound static electricity ability activated, sending a jolt into the ground. As if his power had acted as a defibrillator, a skeletal hand burst from the earth, resurrecting an undead outcast. The legend was real. Meanwhile, as Wednesday walked back to the school, Enid finally caught up, grabbing her by the shoulder. Suddenly, Wednesday's dark tears returned, and she lost consciousness. In her vision, she saw a tombstone with Enid's name on it, a grim premonition of her friend's death. Enid's voice echoed in the vision, blaming Wednesday for her fate. On the outside, Wednesday's body convulsed, a sight that terrified Morticia, who realized something grim was happening to her daughter. Shortly after, Wednesday finally regained consciousness. Morticia, no longer in the dark about her daughter's condition, confronted her. She revealed that the black tears were a symptom of psychic exhaustion. Wednesday, in her classic stubborn fashion, denied being exhausted. But Morticia had heard it all before from her sister Ophelia, who had the same raven psychic power. Ophelia's story had a grim end, and Morticia didn't want the same for Wednesday. She pleaded with her daughter to give up her training and take a break, but Wednesday refused. She knew there was a greater mystery she had to solve. Wednesday raced away from the academy, recalling the clues she had gathered, the cryptic warning from Donovan, the strange painting from Xavier, and her vision of Enid's death. They all pointed to a single, grim conclusion. She set out to find Donovan, but upon entering his house, she found him sitting lifelessly in front of the TV. A murder of crows flew out of his mouth, sending the house into chaos. Among them was the one-eyed crow from Xavier's painting. After the crows disappeared, Wednesday approached the body and tried to use her power to see the past, but it failed. She tried again, but it was no use. At that moment, as if fate had a cruel sense of humor, Sheriff Santiago arrived and found Wednesday standing before the body. She immediately assumed Wednesday was the murderer. Back at the sheriff's office, Sheriff Santiago questioned Wednesday about why she was at the crime scene. But Wednesday, never one to be easily interrogated, countered with a question of her own. Santiago then revealed a shocking detail. The body found in the forest near Nevermore had the same gruesome injuries as Donovan's body. Both had their eyes gouged out. The sheriff explained that her last call before her death was to Donovan, which was why she had gone to check on him. Now, she demanded to know why Wednesday was at both crime scenes. But before Wednesday could respond, her father, Gomez Adams, burst in, posing as her lawyer and informing Santiago that she had no warrant to question his daughter. They left without another word. On their way back home, Gomez asked what had happened. Wednesday simply explained that she went to Donovan's house to talk to him about a case he had asked for her help on. She then, out of morbid curiosity, asked her father about her aunt Ophelia, but Gomez refused to tell her anything. The next day, Eugene went to a shed to meet Pugsley, worried that the boy had been using his pet bees as midnight munchies. When he checked inside, he found Pugsley with the resurrected undead outcast. Pugsley revealed that the zombie was the boy from the urban legend, and surprisingly, a fellow Nevermore student. They gave him a jar of honey, which he promptly vomited up, giving Pugsley the idea to call him Slurp. Meanwhile, back at the dorm, Wednesday, after telling Thing not to tell anyone about the vision of Enid's death, was horrified to find Enid lying on the balcony in a puddle of blood. It was just a prank, and Enid revealed it was the Academy's annual prank day, a response to Wednesday's prank of putting a fake eye on her pillow. When Wednesday looked at the eye, she immediately recognized it as Donovan's missing eye. At that moment, a notification popped up on Enid's cell phone, and it was a message from Wednesday's stalker, sending a new picture of her with the message, "I'm still watching." They called the number, and to their surprise, it was Donovan's phone. Wednesday realized that with Donovan dead, it had to be a murderer using the phone. Santiago had also mentioned that the phone was missing from the crime scene. Wednesday, knowing she needed to get to the bottom of this, told Thing to study Goody Adams's book to find a way to regain her psychic powers, which she believed she had lost after the crow attack. Outside, as the Academy celebrated Prank Day, Wednesday met Principal Dort and one of the professors, Professor Orloff. She asked them if they knew of anyone with the ability to control birds. Professor Orloff, referring to such outcasts as avians, said the Academy hadn't had an avian student for a decade. Meanwhile, Bianca, acting on the principal's threat, began her manipulation of Morticia. She visited Morticia that morning, showing her a list of potential donors for the gala. The number one on the list was Hester Frump, Morticia's mother and Wednesday's grandmother. Morticia, however, was still reluctant to accept, knowing that her daughter wasn't fond of her being at school. Back at the shed, Pugsley and Eugene gave Slurp a sandwich, which the undead outcast devoured quickly. They left him alone, unaware that the chain holding him was about to break. At the same time, Wednesday, suspecting that Tyler might know something about his father's murder, decided to pay him a visit. Coincidentally, it was the day of Enid's driving exam, and Wednesday took the opportunity to get a ride to the facility where Tyler was held. She threatened the instructor and took control of the car. Meanwhile, Morticia went to Wednesday's dorm room, but only found Enid there. After Enid left, Morticia confronted Thing, demanding to know why he had kept Goody's book a secret from her. Thing, fed up with being treated like a servant, snapped and refused to tell her anything. On the other hand, Wednesday finally reached the psychiatric facility, Willow Hill, and was introduced to Dr. Fairburn, the head of the hospital. Dr. Fairburn took her to Tyler's confinement. Wednesday wasted no time telling Tyler that his father was dead. Tyler, being his usual smug self, refused to give her any information, saying he enjoyed seeing her in the dark. But Wednesday, a master of mind games, used a fact check to push his buttons, leaving Tyler in a fit of rage as she left. Back at the academy, Eugene frantically told Pugsley that Slurp had broken free from his chains and was now loose on the school grounds. In the dorm, Enid and Bruno, a member of her werewolf pack, were having a good time when they found the drunk Thing. Thing said that it was his birthday and the Addams family had forgotten, making him disappointed. As a good friend, Enid promised to take him to celebrate, but before she could, someone attacked her and Bruno. That incident led to Enid and Bruno being chained in an abandoned clock tower, a chilling note from the perpetrator giving Wednesday half an hour to find them. After a chance meeting with the new music teacher, Ms. Capri, who asked her to join an orchestra, Wednesday realized the note she received was a riddle. The drawing of a heart and the words "play dead" were not what they seemed. She figured out that the heart referred to an organ, a musical instrument, and "play dead" was a clue to play the D, E, A, and D chords. She rushed to the music room, played the chords on the organ, and discovered a hidden path. She went inside, making her way through the dark corridor, but soon realized she was being followed by a mysterious masked figure. The figure vanished, leaving behind their mask with the words "clock's ticking" written inside, confirming that the passage led to the abandoned clock tower. At the same time, Enid and Bruno desperately tried to free themselves. They soon found themselves in a dire situation. Thousands of swords were dangling above them, ready to pierce them. In that tense moment, the two somehow found intimacy and shared a kiss before Wednesday finally showed up. Thing immediately tried to pick the lock, but he accidentally set off a trap, and the swords began to descend slowly. As the dangling swords descended slowly, Wednesday, under immense pressure, noticed a typewriter. A paper inside read, "What don't you see?" and she was surrounded by books from famous authors. Wednesday realized the typewriter was the key to freeing her friends. With the swords just centimeters away from a gruesome end, she quickly found the answer and typed it, freeing Enid and Bruno just in time. The stalker then revealed herself as a student named Agnes, who claimed to be Wednesday's #1 fan. Agnes confessed that her elaborate plan was all a twisted way to get Wednesday's attention and become her friend. Wednesday, believing Agnes was the one who killed Donovan since she had his cell phone, questioned her about the murder. Agnes denied it, insisting she just wanted to be friends, and his murder had nothing to do with her. She simply just snatched his phone. Meanwhile, Bianca met with Principal Dort, but she was fed up with his manipulations. She attempted to use her siren song to control him, but to her shock, he was wearing an amulet that repelled her power. With no other choice, she reluctantly complied with his orders. Bianca went to Morticia's place, used her siren song to control her, and made her call her mother, Hester Frump, to ask her to be a donor. Bianca also ensured Morticia wouldn't remember their encounter. Deep down, Bianca felt guilty, but her scholarship was on the line. Later that night, the driving instructor Wednesday had scared off called Principal Dort to report her reckless driving, but the call never went through. To make matters worse, he accidentally hit someone with his car, and it was Slurp. The resurrected zombie attacked and ate him alive. Determined to regain her psychic powers and continue her mission to save Enid, Wednesday decided to sneak into her mother's room to get Goody's book back. But Morticia had anticipated this and was prepared. She caught Wednesday red-handed. Cornered and desperate, Wednesday confided in her mother about her vision of Enid's death and the one-eyed crows. Morticia, however, refused to believe her, saying that visions could be misleading and were a symptom of psychic exhaustion. Morticia warned that Wednesday reminded her of her aunt Ophelia, who suffered a grim fate. But Wednesday, ever defiant, refused to heed her mother's warning. The next day, it was announced that the academy would hold a camping trip. Enid meticulously packed her bags, but Wednesday was indifferent, too engrossed in her mission. Enid asked her to join, but Wednesday refused, saying she preferred to be alone. After Enid left, Wednesday muttered to herself about how Enid was oblivious to her impending death. This was overheard by Agnes, who suddenly appeared. With Agnes now privy to this crucial information, Wednesday, though reluctant, realized she had no choice but to include Agnes in her investigation, knowing she could be a valuable partner. In a secluded inn, Bianca entered a room after using her siren song to command the receptionist for the key. Inside, she met her mother, Gabrielle, a siren who once ran a notorious cult called the Morning Song. The cult had disbanded after Gabrielle was put on the police's most wanted list, and Bianca had been hiding her to keep her safe. Meanwhile, Wednesday Adams' decision to team up with Agnes proved to be a good one. With Agnes's help, along with another of her fan club members who could shapeshift, they were able to crack Donovan's locked phone. Inside, Wednesday found a voicemail from Donovan's partner, leading her to a place called the Bullpen. Agnes also provided more evidence she had taken from Donovan's house before the police had searched it. Inside the box was a picture of a cabin in the woods with the bullpen and its location written on the back. Wednesday soon discovered that the cabin was close to the location of Nevermore's camping trip, so she had no choice but to join the event. The next day, everyone was buzzing about the trip. The students packed their things for their night in the wilderness and were soon on their way to Camp Jericho. Upon arrival, Wednesday noticed that Pugsley had brought a coffin. Pugsley tried to play it off, claiming it was full of firecrackers, but the coffin was shaking and a low growl could be heard from inside. Shortly after, the family car pulled up and their parents, Gomez and Morticia, got out. They were there because they feared Wednesday would do something dangerous. At the tent, it was revealed that Pugsley had decided to bring Slurp, the resurrected undead outcast, with him. He was worried that leaving Slurp unguarded at the school would be a bad idea, not realizing that bringing him to a camping trip was an even worse one. They almost got caught by Gomez, but their desperate excuses somehow worked. After the students finished setting up their tents, Principal Dort was about to kick off the event when a group of scouts intervened. They claimed they had booked the place, revealing the owner had double-booked the campground. Wednesday, seeing the scouts as a major hindrance to her mission to find the cabin, decided to settle things her own way. She initiated a challenge to settle who would claim the campground. The outcasts and the scouts would face off in a color war competition. Each team would have to defend an item while trying to steal the opponents and bring it back to the campground's tower. The winner would get to stay, and the loser would have to leave. The scouts, despite facing opponents with supernatural powers, weren't intimidated. Their chief had prepared military-grade tools for the game. The outcasts, on the other hand, made it clear they weren't going to let the scouts win. The challenge began, and the scouts, despite being normal humans, proved to be formidable opponents. They quickly found the outcast base, and the guards, including Ajax, were no match for the highly trained scout boy. The scouts soon claimed their target, but the outcasts, led by Wednesday Addams, weren't ready to give up. Their plan to fight back was met with the scouts' preparedness. Thankfully, Eugene used his power to control a swarm of bees, disorienting the scouts and giving Wednesday the chance to claim their target too. The scouts, however, were almost at the tower's top. Wednesday, in a daring acrobatic move, used a zip line to get to the tower and beat the scout boy to the top, winning the game for the outcasts. The scouts were forced to leave, but their stubborn leader, refusing to accept the loss, vowed to reclaim the campground in the night. Later that night, the students gathered around a bonfire, singing songs, giving Wednesday the perfect chance to slip away and find the cabin. Meanwhile, the scouts began their ambush. Wednesday soon arrived at Donovan's cabin. There, she found a crucial clue. Behind a mirror, she found newspaper clippings about the deaths of outcasts who were patients the Willow Hill, the same facility where Tyler was locked. All the deaths were connected to a person named Lois. She tried to use her psychic ability to get a vision, but her powers still weren't working. She knew she needed Goody's book back. Unbeknownst to her, the one-eyed crow was watching her from outside. Back at the campground, Principal Dort approached Morticia, asking if her mother had decided to be a donor for the fundraising gala, but Morticia had failed to convince her. Upon returning, Wednesday, knowing that her mother wouldn't willingly give her the book, challenged her to a duel. The prize would be Goody's book. Morticia agreed, but on one condition. If she won, she would burn the book. Wednesday, with no other choice, accepted the terms. Meanwhile, the scouts' ambush went horribly wrong. They mistakenly targeted Pugsley's tent where Slurp was kept. The scout leader accidentally set off a trap, alerting Pugsley and Eugene, but it was too late. Slurp attacked the leader and then went loose in the campground. Slurp made his way to the public bathroom where Gomez was having a shower. He began hitting the door with an axe, but Gomez, oblivious to the danger, thought it was Morticia. Before Slurp could attack, Pugsley arrived and stopped the zombie. But the ruckus had already alerted everyone. The students, witnessing a zombie with an axe, ran frantically. Slurp, however, headed straight for the challenge arena where Wednesday and Morticia were in a sword duel. The duel was a dazzling display of skilled swordplay. Both were equally good, but Morticia, the more experienced mother, proved her prowess and managed to beat Wednesday. Just as the duel ended, Slurp showed up. In a split second, Wednesday threw her sword to defend her mother from the zombie. Shortly after, the sheriff was called to the location and the zombie was captured. The scout leader's body was evacuated from the grounds, and the other boys gave their leader a solemn guard of honor. In that moment, Wednesday Addams caught a glimpse of the mysterious person from her vision, the one connected to the chaos, but she couldn't make out their face. Meanwhile, at Willow Hill, a new patient had been admitted. The head of the facility, Dr. Fairburn, had her full attention on this new patient, ordering extra security and deeming them extremely dangerous. It was then revealed that the new patient was Marilyn Thornhill. the main villain from the first season who had groomed Tyler Galpin into a monstrous hide. The next day, Dr. Fairburn brought Marilyn to her office, hoping to get her to work with her to rehabilitate Tyler. Marilyn, seeing an opportunity, demanded a condition. She wanted to be a permanent patient at Willow Hill, not wanting to return to the penitentiary where she was previously locked. Dr. Fairburn refused outright, even when Marilyn insisted she was the only one who could unlock Tyler's mind. Realizing that the woman was non-negotiable, Marilyn settled for a simpler condition. She just wanted to meet Tyler. Dr. Fairburn agreed. What followed was a confrontation no one expected. Despite being the one who unlocked his hide potential, Marilyn was the person Tyler hated most. When they faced each other, Tyler wasted no time, immediately attacking her and almost snapping her neck. She only managed to get him to stop by promising to find a way to free him. Wednesday, in the meantime, continued her investigation. Following the clues she found about the patients of Willow Hill, she was led to a cemetery. Accompanied by her eccentric grandmother, Hester Frump, she checked on the urns of the deceased. Hester, a morbid expert on such things, discovered that the ashes somehow lacked a human smell, meaning the deaths were faked. As they chatted, the same one-eyed crow was watching them from the roof. When they were off guard, the crow swooped down, stole the evidence Wednesday had, and flew away. Wednesday's frantic efforts to get it back were all in vain. She then asked her grandmother to buy the cemetery and find out who authorized the cremation of the deceased, making a deal Hester couldn't refuse. With Enid's impending death looming, Wednesday knew she had no time to waste. She realized the answers she was looking for were at Willow Hill and decided it was time to bring in the big guns. She called for help from her uncle, Fester Adams, to gather information from the hospital. To get into Willow Hill, Fester created a commotion at a local inn. His plan worked perfectly, but there was significant collateral damage. Bianca's mother, Gabrielle, who was also hiding in the inn, was found by the authorities and brought to the sheriff's office. Bianca was worried, but she couldn't do anything to help her mother, as Principal Dort had just asked her, along with Pugsley, Eugene, and Ajax, to help seal the invitations for the gala. Wednesday, desperate for answers, confronted her mother, Morticia. She had discovered that her aunt, Ophelia, was once a patient at Willow Hill, and she demanded an explanation. Morticia finally revealed the painful truth. Ophelia had the same psychic ability as Wednesday, and she pushed it to the point of a mental and physical breakdown, leading her to be locked away at Willow Hill. Morticia, wanting to save her sister, pleaded with her own mother, Hester Frump, not to let Ophelia be institutionalized, but Hester was resolute. Suddenly, Hester appeared, and to Morticia's dismay, announced that Wednesday was following the family business by buying her first cemetery. She then secretly slipped Wednesday a crucial piece of information. The person who authorized the fake cremations of the outcasts was a man named Augustus Stonehurst. After getting the clue, Wednesday left, leaving her mother and grandmother alone. Hester told Morticia she would be a donor for the gala on one condition. She wanted Goody's book returned to Wednesday. But Morticia, with no hesitation, made her final decision. She threw the book into the fireplace, letting it burn to protect her daughter from the same fate as Ophelia. On the other hand, Bianca, growing more and more anxious about her mother's fate at the sheriff's office, confided in Ajax. The fear of losing her mother had finally softened her heart, and she told him everything. Realizing the dire situation, Ajax offered to help. With his Gorgon ability, he turned their professor, Professor Orloff, into stone, creating a diversion. Bianca then used her siren song to compel Pugsley and Eugene to finish the invitations, giving her and Ajax the chance to leave. Meanwhile, Fester, having successfully infiltrated Willow Hill, began his search for information on a person named Lois. He even had a funny encounter with a canteen woman named Louise, whom he initially mistook for his target. Wednesday didn't stop her investigation. From Agnes, she learned that Augustus Stonehurst was a normie doctor at Willow Hill who once taught science at Nevermore. One day, he had a psychotic break and was sent to the very hospital where he used to work. As the two were talking, Enid confronted them, feeling left out. But Wednesday, having spotted the one-eyed crow, told Enid to leave. Enid, however, didn't know the danger and insisted on an explanation. That was a bad decision. Suddenly, a murder of crows attacked. While the mysterious figure behind it, the avian, watched from a window. Thing was almost carried away by the one-eyed crow, but Principal Dort, who had just arrived with Morticia, used his fire ability to shoot a fireball, saving Thing. Enid, in a quick move, managed to catch Thing before he fell to the ground. Fortunately, Wednesday and Enid were unharmed. Wednesday immediately saw the mysterious figure and gave chase. following them into a hidden passage that led to the school's music room. Inside, she found Dr. Fairburn on the phone and immediately accused her of being the mysterious person. Dr. Fairburn denied it, claiming she was there for an appointment with the music teacher. Just then, Ms. Capri came in, gasping for air, as if she had been running. Wednesday grew suspicious, but Ms. Capri also denied the accusation. At the sheriff's office, Bianca finally arrived. She used her siren song to command Sheriff Santiago and her colleague to release her mother. Back at the school, Wednesday told Thing to go to Willow Hill. Then she was approached by her mother, who had found out about Wednesday's plan with Fester, and was asked why Fester ended up in Willow Hill. Wednesday confirmed her mother's suspicion, explaining that Fester was there to help her find information about her vision of Enid's death. Morticia, who had grown tired of Wednesday's reckless pursuit of her unproven visions, which had almost harmed her, Enid, and Thing, told her to stop, but Wednesday once again refused. Meanwhile, Thing arrived at Willow Hill. He found Fester and told him that they needed to find Augustus Stonehurst to find Lois. With the help of a guard, Fester was able to meet Augustus, who was in a catatonic state. Augustus, despite not being able to speak, had a trash-talking parrot with him. Fester used his electrical ability to shock the bird, forcing it to reveal about Lois, but the bird only revealed a series of numbers. At school, Wednesday went to Professor Orloff to ask him about Augustus Stonehurst. The professor immediately recognized the name, saying that Gus, as he was called, was popular. Wednesday asked if Gus had ever mentioned a woman named Lois, maybe the name of her wife or daughter. Professor Orloff responded that while Gus's wife was dead, he did have a daughter for whom he built an aviary. This immediately piqued Wednesday's interest. Back to Bianca. She had rescued her mother and, along with Ajax, brought her to a new hiding place. Ajax suggested an old classroom at the school, and as they were making their way through a hidden passage, they overheard Principal Dort talking on the phone behind the wall. As they overheard the conversation, suddenly Ajax's phone rang, but fortunately, they managed to hide before the principal could find them. Meanwhile, at Willow Hill, Marilyn saw Fester with Gus and recognized him as Fester Adams. Fester, however, didn't recognize her. As they walked past a no-access room, Gus pointed to the door and kept muttering the name Lois repeatedly. Marilyn was then brought back to Dr. Fairburn, and she revealed that Wednesday had her uncle, Fester, working to get information from the hospital. Dr. Fairburn immediately ordered her guards to capture Fester, who, at that time, was trying to get into the no-access room. He was then brought to a new cell, where he was locked up with Slurp, Pugsley's pet zombie. Back at the school, Thing informed Wednesday Adams that Dr. Fairburn had found out about Fester Adams, and he was now locked up. Wednesday told Thing to watch over Fester while she came up with a plan to free him. Wednesday then told Agnes her plan. She would secretly hitch a ride in Ms. Capri's car trunk during her visit to Willow Hill for a music class. Once there, she would be helped by Louise, a canteen worker, to get to Fester's cell. Agnes's role was to distract the guards at the front gate. Enid, who was also there, insisted on being part of the plan. Wednesday, not wanting to tell her about the vision of her death, initially refused, but Enid had had enough and was determined to help. With no other choice, Wednesday finally gave in and tasked Enid with being on the lookout. The mission began smoothly. Wednesday hid in Ms. Capri's trunk and arrived at Willow Hill. Agnes successfully distracted the guards, allowing Wednesday to slip inside. With Louise's help, she found Fester and managed to free him. However, chaos erupted when Slurp, Pugsley's pet zombie, managed to break his chain after Wednesday left the cell's door open and attacked the guards who were escorting Marilyn. The entire hospital was put on high alert, and Dr. Fairburn ordered the building to be secured. Amidst the chaos, Wednesday and Fester took the opportunity to get into the mysterious no-access room. Fester used the numbers given by Gus's parrot as a code, and it worked. Inside, they found that Lois wasn't a person's name, but an acronym for Long-Term Outcast Integration Study. They descended into the basement and found cells where the patients with faked deaths were being held. Suddenly, the cloaked figure appeared and revealed herself to be Judy Doctor, Fairburn's assistant. She confessed that she used Dr. Fairburn as the public face of the institution while she worked behind the scenes. She also revealed that her father, Augustus Stonehurst, had a deep love for outcasts and attempted to extract their powers to turn normies into outcasts. He failed, leading to his psychotic break. Judy, however, had volunteered to be a test subject and successfully became an avian, the first normie to be turned into an outcast. Cornered by Judy, who was now pointing a gun at them, Fester used his electric ability to cause a blackout, unlocking all the cells. The imprisoned outcasts rushed out and attacked Judy. Wednesday took the opportunity to escape with one of the female patients, whom she felt a strange connection to. Meanwhile, Marilyn found her way to Tyler's confinement and freed him. But Tyler, still feeling betrayed, refused to trust her. He decided to kill her, but gave her a head start to escape. He eventually cornered her and killed her. On the other hand, Dr. Fairburn and Gus hid in her office, but they were not alone. Slurp was waiting for them. After killing Dr. Fairburn, Slurp, who could now speak, called Gus an old friend and killed him too. Wednesday and the female patient almost made it out of the building when Tyler, in his Hyde monster form, appeared. He charged at them, but Wednesday showed no fear. She told the woman to run while she faced the monster. However, just as the police arrived, Wednesday, her head bleeding, was thrown off the building by Tyler, who then managed to escape from the police.